Donald Trump sat at the view table on a Tuesday morning that already felt electric. The studio lights glowed too bright. The audience clapped politely, but with an edge that was impossible to ignore. He leaned back slightly in his chair, one hand resting on the table, eyes moving from Whoopi to Sunny to Sarah, then settling on Joy Behar, who was tapping her pen on a notepad like she could barely hold in what she wanted to say. Whoopi started first, her tone clipped but cordial. She said, "Mr. Trump, thank you for sitting with us today. A lot of people are surprised you agreed to come back." Trump didn't flinch. He said, "Well, Whoopi, you always give me a good time. It's nice to come back where everybody's honest. Or at least pretending to be." A few people laughed nervously. Joy's lips pressed together so tight, they almost disappeared. Sunny Hostin leaned forward, voice calm but loaded. She said, "You've called this table nasty, dishonest, even corrupt. Why sit here again if you think so little of us?" Trump smiled faintly. He said, "Because sometimes you have to look people in the eye when they lie to your face." The audience gasped, half applause, half uneasy shuffle. Sarah Haynes cut in, her tone softer. She said, "Mr. Trump, let's start with the big one. You keep saying the media twist your words, that people like us fuel division. But you thrive on division, don't you?" Trump leaned forward, elbows on the table. He said, "No, Sarah. I thrive on telling the truth, and people mistake that for division because they can't handle what it looks like." Joy couldn't hold it anymore. She snapped her pen down, voice sharp. She said, "You wouldn't know truth if it bit you, Donald. You've spent your career calling people names, bullying reporters, tearing families apart." Trump turned slowly toward her, his tone measured but cold. He said, "Joy, you've spent your career yelling at people you disagree with. If I'm a bully, what does that make you?" The audience gasped again, a single clap, then silence. Sunny cut in. She said, "You're deflecting. You don't answer real questions. You just throw insults." Trump shrugged. He said, "The real question is, why do you pretend you're moral authority when you lie to your audience every single day?" Joy's voice rose a notch. She said, "What lies, Donald? Tell the people one lie." Trump looked right at her. He said, "You called half this country stupid for voting for me. You called them racist. You called them every name in the book because you don't like the choice they made." Joy stood half out of her seat, one hand pressed to the table. She said, "Because it was the wrong choice." Trump's voice dropped lower. He said, "Wrong for you, not for them." Sarah's eyes flicked from Joy to Whoopi, then back to Trump. She said, "Do you even understand how much damage you've done to trust, to truth, to civility?" Trump didn't break his stare. He said, "Civility is you telling people they're monsters if they disagree with you. Civility is you mocking them when they can't fight back. Civility is fake when you only offer it to people who agree with you." Joy's chair squeaked. She said, "You're a coward, Donald. That's what you are." Trump leaned back, smile barely there. He said, "Then why does the coward keep showing up where he's not wanted?" A ripple of applause came from the back. The tension snapped like a wire pulled too tight. Whoopi raised her voice, cutting in fast. She said, all right, let's not turn this into another circus." Trump said, "Too late. The circus was here before I walked in." Joy's face flushed red. She said, "You should just leave. You don't deserve this platform." Trump's tone dropped even lower, calm enough to scare. He said, "Joy, maybe you should." The audience gasped again, no one sure if they were about to clap or shout. Joy's eyes flared wide. She said, "You want me to leave my own show? You've lost your mind." Trump didn't blink. He said, "If you hate hearing the other side so much, why pretend to invite debate at all?" Sunny leaned in, voice tight. She said, "This is the problem. You sit here acting like the victim when you're the one who spent years attacking anyone who told you no." Trump turned to Sunny, his tone even. He said, "I'm not a victim. I'm the one sitting here, getting called every name you can think of, and you're still pretending I'm the bully." The audience shifted. Some clapped. Some booed. The air felt like it might snap. Sarah's voice cracked just a little. She said, "But you are a bully, Mr. Trump. You've mocked women, immigrants, soldiers, everyone." Trump's eyes narrowed slightly, but his voice stayed flat. He said, "And what have you done, Sarah? You've mocked half the country that disagrees with you, every day, on this stage." Joy slammed her hand on the table again. She said, "We tell the truth. We don't sugarcoat it for bigots and liars." Trump tilted his head, studying her. He said, "You tell your truth, the version that makes you feel righteous. But you don't let anyone else speak without shouting them down." Whoopi jumped in, her tone rising. She said, "This is the danger. You're normalizing hate. You're giving cover to people who do real harm." Trump cut her off, his voice low but clear. He said, "You're normalizing censorship. You decide what's hate. You decide who can talk." The audience murmured. A few people called out, "Let him finish." Joy barked back at the audience. She said, "Don't you dare clap for that. Don't you dare clap for this man who tried to tear this country apart." Trump leaned in closer to her side of the table. He said, "This country was divided long before I showed up. You just hate that I told people it's okay not to listen to you anymore." Joy's face was flushed red now. She said, "You're a disgrace. A walking disgrace." Trump's voice went almost quiet. He said, "If I'm a disgrace, what does that make you for needing me to fill your seats?" The audience gasped again, louder this time, a ripple of claps cutting through. Whoopi turned to the crew. She said, "We need to wrap this." Trump said, "Of course you do. Conversation's over when you start losing control." Joy stood up fully now, pointing at him. She said, "Get out. Get off this stage. You're not welcome here." Trump stood too, adjusting his jacket, calm as ever. He said gladly, "You invited me, but you can't handle me." Joy's voice cracked with rage. She shouted, "Walk out then. Walk out like the coward you are." Trump took a slow step back, turning once to the audience. He said, "You deserve better voices than this." He turned to Whoopi last, his tone almost calm. He said, "Thanks for having me, Whoopi. Good luck with the ratings." The audience split. Half cheers, half boos, all tangled in the hot lights. Trump walked off stage. He didn't look back. Joy stood there, breathing hard, her hands still trembling on the table. Sarah's voice came out in a whisper, meant more for herself than anyone else. She said, "What just happened?" Whoopi didn't answer. The band stayed silent. The cameras held on the empty chair he left behind. The studio stayed frozen. The lights felt too bright. The audience sat in a tangle of awkward claps and nervous silence that never turned into real applause. Joy stayed standing, her chest rising and falling as if she might say one more thing, but the words caught in her throat. Sunny spoke first, her voice low. She said, "That was not a conversation. That was a circus." Whoopi didn't look at her. She kept staring at Trump's empty chair. She said, "It always turns into this with him. Always." Sarah's voice trembled as she tried to sound calm. She said, "But maybe people heard something tonight, even if they hated it." Joy's laugh came out sharp, more like a bark. She said, "He's poison. That's all people need to hear. Poison. Nothing more." A woman in the back row clapped once. It sounded lonely. Sunny shook her head slowly. She said, "We wanted him here so we could hold him accountable. But you don't hold people accountable by shouting them out the door." Joy snapped, "He's not held accountable. He doesn't deserve this platform. He doesn't deserve to sit here and spread his filth." Whoopi's eyes stayed on the empty seat. She said, "The problem is, the people who agree with him won't see it as filth. They'll see it as a shutting him down." Joy pressed her hands to the table like she could squeeze the words back inside her. She said, "Let them think it. Let them live in that fantasy." Sarah's voice came out softer, barely above a whisper. She said, "And what if the fantasy grows bigger because they see us losing our minds every time?" Whoopi turned to Sarah, her eyes heavy but steady. She said, "Then we do better next time." Joy pulled her chair back in roughly, but didn't sit down. She said, "There won't be a next time for him." Sunny asked, "And what about everyone else who thinks like him? We can't throw them all out." No one answered that. The lights stayed hot and unblinking. The band didn't play a note. The audience started to leave, row by row, some arguing under their breath. A few people clapped one more time, not for what happened, but for the fact it was finally over. Backstage, Trump didn't look back at the curtain. He walked straight to the exit, jacket draped over one arm, eyes forward, face calm. Outside, the clip started to spread. Some people called it a meltdown. Some called it vindication. Some called it a reckoning for a show that pretended it could handle the fire until the fire burned through the floor. At her dressing room, Joy sat alone. She tapped her pen against the desk just once before tossing it aside. Nobody said it out loud, but the question hung in the air for everyone watching. Who really walked out, and who got left behind? In the end, there was no final statement. No apology. No applause. Just one empty chair. And a conversation that wouldn't go away when the lights went out.